Yes. What's your question?
Dr. Whitehead, good evening, good afternoon, good evening.
Good
My name is
evening.
Baruj Mackliff. I have two pitch decks ready. I have learned a lot from you, and what I just want to say, what an amazing presentation that you had tonight, Mr. Whitehead.
Oh,
What what and I mean every night, but tonight you just blew my brains even more. What an architectural choice of words that you have, Dr. Whitehead. You get a systematic delivery of like atomic business vocabulary. Sir, every time
wow.
I hear you, my second-handed convictions, they become little and little less and less, sir. I just wanted to tell you, sir, that I really appreciate you, and we all appreciate you, sir. I appreciate that you took the time to tell us all these things, sir. I really do, sir.
Thank
That story, the story about the machine and the screw. Oh my God, the story about the machine and the screw, man. What a caliber of delivery, an artillery of caliber of commander that you are, Mister. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you for teaching us all these things.
you. Oh, you're
Dr.
welcome.
Whitehead,
Yes,
my
sir.
first question is when it comes to, I was doing my due diligence like you always tell us to do when it comes to the Lehman's agreement. I saw that it, if we're going to get funded or get funds or capital via Lehman's agreement, if it's $5 million. Now I might be wrong, but just correct me. If it's $5 million, it's 1%, and or if it's $5 million, something about if it's $10 million and up, it's 1% commission for the people that get us the money. It, that does that commission ever go up? In other words, for the Lehman's agreement or however it works, do we ever get charged 7% or 10% for getting more than an example 24 million? I've got pitch decks ready. I'm going to shut up now and let you speak. But I have two pitch decks ready, and one of them is 90 million. The other one is just 24. I've got a business summary, and let me allow you just to answer that. When it comes to commission, does the commission structure in a Lehman's agreement, does it change? Does it always stay at 1%? Or are these guys going to charge us 10%, 15%? Yeah.
Okay. That's a good question. Lehman's agreement. It's Lehman's agreement. So these are people that go out and get the money for you. So there's no excuse, right? So what we have here is the Lehman's agreement. If they get you $1 million, they get 5%. If they raise you $2 million, they get 4%. If they raise you $3 million, they get 3%. If they raise you $4 million, they get 2%. Anything over $4 million is going to be 1%. It doesn't matter if they raise you 500 million, a billion, it doesn't matter. It's going to be 1%. Anything over $4 million they raise for you, it's going to be 1%. The only thing that may change is that they may ask for a small amount of equity.
What does that mean, Dr. Whitehead?
Well, equity in the business is that you have uh, maybe a $50 million business, $100 million business, and you have shares. Uh, so they may just ask for, a small percentage of the business. You understand what I mean?
I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, all right, sure. I mean, I'm supposed to have already a corp established with a little bit of value via stock certificates. Oh, we'll see.
You mean to raise funds for them to raise funds?
Yeah.
No, no, this is all based on your idea and your pitch deck. You know, if you tell a person, I have a map, uh, if you tell a person I'm buying an apartment complex, and the apartment complex is going to be $400 million. And right now it's worth $450 million. Well, nobody cares about your credit. Nobody cares how good or bad your credit is. Nobody cares about whether you have anything in your company or not. They care is this a valid deal? And if you can show them that this is a valid deal, they're in. So that's where you show them your pitch deck. This is what's going on. This is the story. We have experience, and our company is structured right.
Okay, so but in order to get the funds in order to get the funds for a fund, a person still needs to have a PPM, right? Private placement memorandum, a letter of intent, a resolution letter that's notarized, and transfer agents, a bond, and a 3-star bond as per you, right? In order to leverage, do we still need to have all that?
No, no, no. That's when you're leveraging. When you're talking about basically, when you're talking about making your money bigger.
from the
Say you
bank.
have $200,000, you want to make your money look bigger than $200,000. So you want to look good. So you start leveraging your money and doing things to make yourself look more fundable to the bank. But when you're talking about investors are interested in ROI, return on investment. And does this make sense? As long as it makes sense, they're in.
Can you connect us with investors like that as a consultant?
Well, we have I can I can connect you to Mark, and Mark can go into it more if you're serious about and I believe you are. So Rachel, can you send him over to Mark?
Yes, Mr. Derrick.
I have Rachel's WhatsApp, and I also have Louita, and I'll be sure. Okay, Mark. Then thank you very much, Dr. Whitehead. We all really appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And
Dr. Whitehead, on the last episode, you left us all in kind of a bloom with a missing piece of the puzzle. You said, and I quote, because I wrote it down. I'm a nerd. Every time I listen to you, I write everything down you say, all your information. In the last episode on the live stream, you said that you got sick, and I quote, you got sick, and I said, well, Lord, money's not everything. And then that's when something clicked inside of you, and you said, I need to teach, give this information for people. Dr. Whitehead, my question is, what happened to you? What clicked to the person of Dr. Whitehead? What made you want to give this information to help people, to help community, to leave a legacy? If we take away economicmajory.com and we look at the man behind the figure, the posture, the man behind the mind, the man behind the glasses, who is Dr. Whitehead? Who was Dr. Whitehead before he became a doctor in teaching people for free? I mean, you got sick. What happened? Did God touch you hard? Were you convicted? What happened to you, doctor?
yeah, I was working as an engineer for Raytheon. They build missiles, and that's down here in San Diego on Mercury and Balboa, Raytheon. And I was working on the Patriot missile system on harness. And so I helped build that. And then we installed that in Hawaii when you needed a top security clearance to go there in Pearl Harbor. So we installed that I flew us out there, and we installed that on the command ship Coronado, which is a command ship in the U.S. fleet. And so I've been around the world on, built in working in Central Information Center. That's where, it's a top secret security clearance area where you deal with a lot of the controls and a lot of the keeping up the mechanisms. I helped do such things as the SSTV, where they shoot us out there in a helicopter in the middle of the ocean, and we look and put analytical gauges on somewhat of a submarine, but not an actual submarine, to see how it handles bombardment if it was underwater. And so the analytical signals turn into digital signals that will send back the signals to see how this thing is handling explosives underwater. I was an underwater welder before I did that. I did MIG, TIG, heliarc, submerged, stick welding, aluminium welding, which you can blow a hole in easily. And then I became a shipbuilder. And I mothballed some ships, cutting them from big ships, cutting them down with big 6-foot torches, cutting them down, catching on fire. So I've done some hard work. I didn't always have this suit on. And so, and I worked for Southwest Marine in San Diego as facilities where the ship comes in, and we do all aspects of making the ship ready in dry dock, 18,000 volts, shore power, forward and aft brow when the ship comes in, making sure the refrigeration is good, rat guards to make sure that rats can't get on the ship, and water for repairs on the ships, so that everybody that goes on, they have everything they need. I was in charge of that. So that's how I moved on up, and went around the world. I did the Dragonfly unit, which is an encryption, decryption units. The F-18, where the pilot can talk himself down in case he becomes incapacitated. I had a part in that. I worked for Sony, Volution, for all these companies. And then I've been around the world about 3 times on these ships. I've mothballed some Navy ships, aircraft carriers, all that. So I was somewhat of a rocket scientist. This is not rocket science. But I got hurt on the ship. A bulkhead blew up, and that's like a wall.
Excuse my ignorance. A what? A bulkhead? What is that?
A bulkhead is a wall on a ship. Call it a bulkhead, right? And so an acetylene tank blew up, and I got kind of messed up. So I got a plate in my arm, and I got messed up. And I said,
"Wow,
Lord, if I can get out of this," and I did. And I was making a lot of money, right? And so and invested my money in doing things, but I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore, right? So I went and opened up a restaurant, and one restaurant became 2, 4, 6, and next thing I had a chain of restaurants. Actually, Homestyle Fish and Chips. right there. It was home style fish and chips.
Yeah, home style fish and chips. Yeah. So, is this the time that you met your mentor, John Noble?
Yes. Yes. So that blew up, and I got my first restaurant, and my second restaurant. My first restaurant, John Noble, he owned everything, right, in San Diego, multi-billionaire. And I was lucky enough to deal with him and meet him, and he took me in and taught me a lot. And so he gave me one of a couple of my locations, and so I was very lucky in that. And I had a lot of people teach me. Just I got a lot of information from a lot of people who cared, and